The meeting room aboard the UHS Stubborn Bastard smelled like burnt coffee and unwashed socks, an ambiance perfectly suited for humanity's most reckless military strategists. General Hector Mad Dog Vasquez sat at the head of the table, his cybernetic eye twitching as he listened to yet another alien commander tell him how humans were doomed. "The numbers do not lie, General Vasquez," intoned Supreme Strategist Ziltoth of the Unified Galactic Federation, a translucent blob-like entity with all the warmth of an unpaid parking ticket. "The hive swarm of the Zarnax Dominion outnumbers your forces 20,000 to 1. Their synchronized neural matrix makes them the most efficient killing force in the known galaxy. There is no strategy that can overcome such odds." Vasquez took a slow sip of his coffee, winced and muttered, "This stuff is more lethal than the Zarnax." Commander Gurg, a 7-foot-tall reptilian warrior from the Thalnux Empire, let out an exasperated growl. "We should have never involved you mammals in this war. Your species is fragile, disorganized, and hopelessly outclassed. Even your most advanced weapons cannot break the Zarnax war machine." Major Lucas, Lucky Calloway, Vasquez's second-in-command, leaned forward with a lazy grin. "Yeah, but see, that's where you're wrong, Scale Boy. You guys have been trying to fight these bug-brained freaks like it's a game of space chess. But humanity? We don't play by the rules." Ziltoth's gelatinous form quivered in disapproval. "You are suggesting an alternative strategy? More like a guaranteed win," Vasquez said, setting down his coffee. "The Zarnax hive mind is optimized for predictability. Their entire war doctrine is built around efficiency. Every soldier moves in perfect coordination. Every tactic is a calculated response. Which means," Calloway snapped his fingers, "they have no idea how to handle pure, unfiltered chaos." Gurg blinked. "You intend to introduce chaos?" Vasquez grinned, showing way too many teeth. "No, Commander Gurg, I intend to introduce something much worse." The room fell silent as Vasquez pulled up a holographic display. The assembled alien. Commanders leaned in, expecting schematics for some top-secret human weapon. Instead, they saw grainy footage of a colossal grizzly bear mauling a moose in the middle of a blizzard. Gurg recoiled. "What in the cold void of the abyss is that monstrosity?" Vasquez pointed at the screen. "That, my scaly friend, is a bear, 700 pounds of muscle, claws sharp enough to slice through bone, and the temperament of a very angry god. And we've got more." The hologram shifted to a pack of wolves, taking down a deer, then a panther stalking through the jungle, then a saltwater crocodile launching itself out of a swamp like a prehistoric missile. Ziltoth made a gurgling noise of distress. "This is madness. This is Earth," Calloway corrected. "Every single planet in your precious Federation was conquered through superior technology, not us. We clawed our way to the top of the food chain by fighting bigger, meaner, and deadlier things than ourselves for millions of years. And we didn't just survive, we learned how to turn them into allies." Vasquez folded his arms. "So here's the plan. We take Earth's most terrifying apex predators, train them, and drop them right into the middle of the Zarnax war zones. Their hive mind won't be able to compute the sheer unpredictability. They'll hesitate, they'll break formation, and then we hit them with everything we've got." The alien commanders exchanged nervous glances. Ziltoth's gelatinous body rippled with something that might have been fear. "You propose unleashing uncontainable organic killing machines upon an interstellar battlefield." Vasquez's cybernetic eye flickered. "Damn right we do." Gurg hesitated, then rubbed his chin. "You said train them. How exactly?" Calloway smirked. "Ever hear of a guy named Steve Irwin?" 3 weeks later, the Zarnax Dominion launched its latest assault on the war-torn planet of Carthus IV, an industrial world that had been fought over. So many times its capital city was now just called Rubble Town. The Zarnak's forces swarmed in, their formations perfect, their movements synchronized. Their neural matrix calculated the battle down to the millisecond. And then, out of nowhere, a full-grown grizzly bear, wearing combat armor and an expression of pure, unfiltered rage, came barreling into the front lines. The first Zarnak's warrior hesitated for 0.2 seconds, trying to process what exactly was happening. That was 0.2 seconds too long. The bear roared, swung a paw the size of a dinner plate, and sent the alien soldier flying through the air like a poorly thrown football. Then it tore into the next one with the kind of energy that suggested it had a personal vendetta against anything with more than 4 legs. As the Zarnaks struggled to reorganize, wolves emerged from the ruined buildings, slinking through the shadows before pouncing onto confused squads. Raptors, yes, actual cloned velociraptors, darted between enemy ranks, their claws raking through. Chitinous armor. And then came the crocodiles. Zarnak's warriors waded through the shallows of the battlefield, only for the water to explode around them as prehistoric jaws clamped down, dragging them under. The neural matrix struggled. There was no logic to this. There were no patterns. There was just carnage. From his command post, Vasquez watched through a tactical display, grinning ear to ear. "Calloway, you seeing this?" Calloway, sitting on a crate next to a war-trained honey badger currently chewing through an alien helmet, gave a thumbs up. "Sir, I am currently watching a crocodile wrestle a Zarnak's heavy trooper into submission, and I have never been prouder to be human." A transmission from Supreme Strategist Ziltoth came through. His voice was a horrified whisper. "General Vasquez, this is unnatural." Vasquez chuckled. "Nah, Ziltoth, this is just Tuesday back on Earth." As the battlefield turned into a scene, from a nature documentary directed by Michael Bay, the Zarnak's lines began to falter. Their soldiers hesitated, their formations broke, and for the first time in recorded history, the hive swarm experienced something utterly foreign. Panic, and that was when the human artillery started firing. "Beautiful," Vasquez murmured, lighting a cigar. "Absolutely beautiful." The Battle of Carthage IV was just the beginning. The Zarnak's dominion had no idea what kind of hell they had just unleashed. And humanity, well, humanity was just getting started. The Zarnak's hive mind was not designed for fear. It was a perfect machine of war, a seamless network of millions of minds operating in unison, calculating probabilities and optimizing battlefield efficiency. It did not hesitate. It did not second-guess. It simply adapted and overwhelmed. Until now, in the underground command nexus of the Zarnak's High Conclave, the neurocysts pulsed erratically, their once fluid thought streams fractured by something they could not comprehend. The human irregularities persist. New biological threats disrupt. Tactical efficiency, hive mind failing to predict patterns. The supreme neurostrategist, a towering abomination of chitin and psionic energy, coiled its sensory tendrils in frustration. Such disorder was unacceptable. Every enemy the Zarnaks had ever encountered had been analyzed, countered, and eradicated. And yet these mammals, these chaotic, undisciplined, irrational creatures, had unleashed something beyond the realm of warfare. Predators. Primitive, unstructured, uncontrollable, and devastating. The images from Carthage IV flickered through the neurocysts. Armored bears rampaging through Zarnak's formations, velociraptors darting between enemy ranks, their claws tearing through flesh and carapace alike. Wolf packs coordinating with terrifying instinct, striking in perfect synchronization, but with no discernible pattern, and the crocodiles, ancient, remorseless hunters, lying in ambush, waiting for the unsuspecting to wander too close before pulling them into the watery abyss. This was not war. This was carnage, and for the first time in their millennia-spanning history, the Zarnax were losing. The supreme neurostrategist issued an urgent command across the hive mind: adapt immediately. Meanwhile, aboard the stubborn bastard, Vasquez was enjoying a whiskey and a steak the size of a hovercar's engine block. "Here's to chaos," Calloway said, raising his glass. "Here's to Earth," Vasquez corrected, clinking his drink. "And to every pissed-off apex predator we could stuff into a combat dropship." Across the mess hall, the mood was electric, human. Soldiers swapped war stories with skeptical but now thoroughly impressed alien allies. Even Commander Gurg, who had previously dismissed humanity's tactics as sheer lunacy, was begrudgingly admitting that it was effective lunacy. "I still do not understand," Gurg rumbled, spearing a slab of cooked meat with a talon. "Your species is physically weaker than most. Your weapons are not the most advanced. Your strategies are unconventional," Vasquez grinned. "And yet we win." Ziltoth, his gelatinous form quivering, interjected, "But the Zarnax will adapt. They always do." Calloway smirked. "Oh, we're counting on it." Gurg's reptilian brow furrowed. "You want them to adapt?" "Damn right," Vasquez said, taking another bite of steak, "because the moment they start changing their tactics, it means they're fighting on our terms." Ziltoth pulsed a deep shade of concern. "And if they develop countermeasures against your beasts?" Vasquez leaned forward, his cybernetic eye gleaming. "Then we make it worse." The Zarnax response was swift. Within 2 standard cycles, their hive mind produced an adaptation directive. Specialized units were bred and deployed. New battlefield tactics were implemented. The first countermeasure came in the form of the Apex Executioners, massive armored war beasts engineered specifically to engage Earth's predators in direct combat. Towering bipedal monstrosities with razor-tipped limbs, their only function was to hunt and kill. The second strategy was more insidious. The Zarnax, having determined that the human-controlled predators operated on instinct, attempted to disrupt their prey's natural senses. Sonic disorientation fields were deployed. Neural disruptors targeted brainwave activity. The third, and most disturbing, was psychological warfare. Captured human soldiers were broadcast across the neural spectrum, their minds subjected to the hive mind's relentless interrogation. Messages were transmitted back to humanity, horrifying, broken transmissions of screaming, distorted voices, and cryptic, unsettling phrases. "Your beasts will betray you. Instinct cannot be controlled. They will turn on you." It was meant to sow doubt, to make humanity question their own tactics. It did the exact opposite, because if there was one thing humans did better than anyone else in the galaxy, it was escalate. On the moon of Deros 9, a Zarnax invasion force moved to establish a foothold. It was a standard operation. They landed in perfect formation, their fortified command centers rising with mechanical precision. Within hours, their neural network had synchronized with the planetary biosphere, and then the sky screamed. Out of the darkness came the shrill, blood-curdling cry of a bald eagle, amplified through battlefield speakers. The Zarnax warriors turned, just in time to see massive figures descending from orbit. The dropships opened, and out came lions. Not just lions. Lions wearing reinforced combat harnesses, outfitted with kinetic shielding and claw enhancements. The Zarnax scrambled to react. It was a standard counter-engagement until the lions were joined by something else. A streak of orange and black shot through the chaos, leaping onto an apex executioner with enough force to crack its armor. The Zarnax hive mind barely had time to process the data. Tigers, bigger, stronger, and even more unpredictable than the wolves or panthers. The tigers hit the battlefield like living missiles, their raw power overwhelming even the Zarnax war beasts. And then came the birds, hawks, eagles, and falcons, trained for aerial assault. swooped down from the sky, their talons striking at the sensory organs of the Zarnax troops, disrupting their cohesion. And finally, the grand reveal. The Zarnax, still reeling, from the sudden and utterly ridiculous escalation, detected massive biological signatures approaching from the east. The ground shook. Something ancient and terrible moved through the jungle. The neural network screamed a warning just as the first elephant burst through the tree line, armored, enhanced, and absolutely livid. The Zarnax warbeasts tried to counter, but nothing in the universe had prepared them for a herd of fully armored, cybernetically enhanced elephants rampaging through their lines like divine judgment. And then the real nightmare arrived. From the shadows, slower, deliberate movements, dark, hulking figures, each nearly 7 feet tall. The Zarnax warriors hesitated, their hive mind struggling to categorize the new threat. And then one of the figures stepped into the moonlight, a massive, hulking gorilla. The beast let out a low, guttural growl. The Zarnax hesitated. The gorilla picked up a Zarnax warrior and suplexed it into the ground. The battlefield devolved into absolute chaos. From orbit, Vasquez and Calloway watched the spectacle unfold. Calloway whistled. "We just weaponized the entire damn food chain." Vasquez took a long, slow sip of whiskey, and we're just getting started. The Zarnax hive mind was collapsing under the weight of its own calculations. Never before had it encountered an enemy so absurdly unpredictable. Humanity was not fighting. Like any species the Zarnax had ever conquered, they had expected cold efficiency, mechanized warfare, precision strikes. Instead, they got a flaming stampede of carnivorous murder machines, howling primates, and elephants treating their war beasts like oversized chew toys. And the worst part, the humans were laughing. From orbit, the war room aboard the stubborn bastard was a scene of barely controlled chaos. Officers and soldiers alike were gathered around the battle monitors, watching in horrified fascination, as the newest wave of Earth's biological nightmares turned the Zarnax front line into a disaster movie. "Oh my God, did you see that?" Calloway nearly choked on his protein bar, pointing at the screen. "That gorilla just picked up a Zarnax warrior and used it to beat another one to death. That's not just war, that's disrespectful." Vasquez took a drag of his cigar, exhaling smoke as he watched an elephant punt an apex executioner through a Zarnax dropship like a living wrecking ball. "Told you, Calloway. Escalation." Ziltoth, who had long since abandoned any hope of understanding human strategy, quivered in his containment tank. This is beyond reckless. This is anarchic insanity." "And?" Calloway asked, tossing a handful of popcorn into his mouth. Ziltoth's gelatinous body pulsed, erratically. "And it is working." Down on Deros 9, the Zarnax forces were experiencing something they had never encountered before. An enemy that refused to obey the rules of warfare. Their hive mind scrambled to reassemble its fractured tactical matrix, but it was like trying to predict the behavior of a hurricane. Their advanced sonic disruptors, meant to disorient predators, had proven ineffective when their own warriors were too busy screaming. Their armored apex executioners had, theoretically, been an ideal counter to Earth's creatures, until a troop of gorillas decided to start throwing boulders at them like it was a damn medieval siege. The final blow came when the largest of the Zarnax warbeasts, an enormous biomechanical abomination that had never known fear, met a rhinoceros. The clash was legendary. The warbeast charged, its reinforced chitinous plates gleaming under the planetary moonlight. The rhino, unfazed, charged back. The resulting impact sent a shockwave across the battlefield. Soldiers, human, Zarnax, and otherwise, paused just to watch as the armored Titan and the prehistoric battering ram went head-to-head. The rhino won. The Zarnax were breaking, and Vasquez was just about to pour himself another drink when the war. Alarms blared. Multiple inbound signals, a lieutenant shouted. We've got a full-scale Zarnax fleet incoming. 50-plus warships, high-energy signatures. They're bringing in reinforcements. The celebratory mood in the war room immediately soured. Calloway sat up straight. So they're finally taking this seriously. Vasquez cracked his knuckles. Took 'em long enough. Gurg, the Thalnox commander, hissed. We cannot hold against a force of that size. This is a full-scale counter-invasion. Ziltoth's translucent form rippled with tension. They will carpet-bomb the surface and eliminate everything, including your beloved creatures. Calloway leaned forward. Okay, but hear me out. What if we made things worse? Ziltoth shuddered. I genuinely do not know what that means anymore. Vasquez grinned. It means we escalate. The war room went silent. Calloway drummed his fingers. On the table. We still have them, don't we? A low murmur spread through the room. Ziltoth recoiled. You don't mean... Oh, I absolutely mean, Vasquez said, turning to a junior officer. Lieutenant, patch me through to the Special Containment Division. Tell them to prep the boys. The officer hesitated. Sir, are you sure? This is, extreme. Vasquez exhaled a long stream of smoke. Lieutenant, did I stutter? Aboard the flagship of the Zarnax reinforcements, Supreme Neurostrategist Catal watched the battlefield from orbit. The carnage below was unacceptable. The very concept of losing to a species that relied on feral animals was an insult to the hive mind. No more delays, no more hesitations. The orbital bombardment would begin immediately. Their fleet would raise. The surface of Deros 9. The humans and their biological aberrations would be wiped from existence. But just as Catal was about to give the order, something changed. New signals. No, new life signs. Large ones, and then the howling started. Deep, primal, reverberating through the Zarnax ships. The kind of sound that preceded nightmares. One of Catal's tactical officers twitched, struggling to process the data stream. There is something else down there. The sensors pulsed, trying to analyze the incoming biosignatures. The readings were off the charts, and then, across every Zarnax ship, the first video feed came through. It was dark, grainy, barely visible in the jungle moonlight. A massive, fur-covered shape, the unmistakable glint of eyes in the shadows, and then sudden motion. The feed cut out just as something huge rushed toward the camera at terrifying speed, and all across the Zarnax hive mind, a single word spread like wildfire. Sasquatch. The stubborn bastards' war room erupted in cheers as the Special Containment Division confirmed deployment. Calloway punched the air. Hell yeah, we just went full cryptid warfare. Gurg blinked in confusion. I do not understand. What is a Sasquatch? Vasquez leaned back in his chair. You ever hear the legends about giant, hairy humanoids lurking in the forests of Earth? Creatures that every scientist said didn't exist? Yeah, turns out we found them. Calloway grinned. And now they work for us. On the battlefield, the Zarnax forces that had barely held their ground against lions, tigers, and armored elephants now faced something worse. Sasquatches were fast, silent, strong enough to rip a Zarnax warrior in half with their bare hands. And they weren't alone. A new transmission flickered onto the war room monitors. An aerial drone, circling above the battlefield, had captured something massive moving through the trees. No, somethings. More than one. More than dozens. And then the camera zoomed in, a hulking, shadowy shape, bipedal-feral fangs, and a growl that shook the trees. Ziltoth went pale. That is not a Sasquatch, Vasquez smirked. Nope. Calloway slammed his hands on the table, his eyes wide with excitement. Sir, did we just unleash a pack of werewolves on the Zarnax? The war room went dead silent. Vasquez took a slow sip of whiskey, then he grinned. Damn right we did. The Zarnax hive mind was screaming. Not in fear, no, they lacked the individualistic concept of fear, but in raw, unfiltered confusion. They had faced every form of warfare, imaginable, from mechanized destruction to psionic invasions, and they had countered it all with efficiency. But nothing in their entire history had prepared them for this. The battlefield of Deros 9 had become a waking nightmare. Their apex executioners, their most advanced counter-predators, lay in broken heaps. The war beasts, genetically engineered to crush any foe, had been trampled, gored, or suplexed into the dirt. Their neural disruptors, designed to incapacitate lesser lifeforms, were utterly useless against the sheer rage of the creatures humanity had unleashed. And now, the shadows themselves were moving. The first sighting of the new enemy came from a Zarnak scout positioned on the outskirts of the jungle. He had already witnessed the impossible. Bears in battle harnesses, gorillas throwing boulders, elephants rampaging through formations. His neural processes were already fraying at the edges, struggling to maintain cohesion with the hive mind. Then he heard it, a low growl. He turned, weapon at the ready. Too late. A massive, fur-covered figure ripped him from his feet, his screams vanishing into the darkness. Then another. Then dozens. The Sasquatches moved in near silence, hulking shadows of muscle and brutality, their eyes gleaming in the moonlight. They didn't just attack, they hunted, appearing and disappearing like vengeful spirits of the forest. Zarnak's warriors opened fire, but their weapons were too slow. The bullets barely slowed the beasts before they were upon them, ripping, tearing, breaking. And then, as if the universe had decided that things weren't horrifying enough, the howling began. Deep, bone-rattling howls. The sound echoed through the battlefield, a chorus of something ancient, something hungry. The Zarnak soldiers didn't know what was coming. The humans did. Vasquez, watching from orbit, exhaled through his cigar. There it is. Calloway had his hands on his head, staring at the monitor, in disbelief. Sir, I just watched a werewolf pile-drive a Zarnax warrior into a tree. What the actual hell is this war? Commander Gerg, hardened Thalnox warrior, was gripping the table with enough force to dent the metal. You told us your kind were weak. You told us you had no natural weapons. Vasquez grinned. We lied. On the surface, chaos reigned. The werewolves were unstoppable. Faster than any Zarnax, stronger than any war beast, smart enough to coordinate but wild enough to remain unpredictable. They fought like demons, tearing through the enemy ranks with a savagery that defied any rational combat analysis. The Zarnax forces broke. The hive mind had no countermeasure. These creatures didn't operate on logic. They didn't adhere to a predictable system. They fought on instinct, on rage, on the pure, unrelenting joy of battle. For the first time in their existence, the Zarnax faced an enemy that enjoyed war more than they did. Panic rippled through the hive mind. The fleet above Deros 9, prepared for orbital bombardment, hesitated. Their supreme neurostrategist, Catal, was no longer issuing commands. He was simply processing, and in that moment of hesitation, the humans made their move. "Hit 'em now," Vasquez ordered. The stubborn bastard and the combined human-alien fleet opened fire, hammering the Zarnax warships with relentless artillery. Plasma cannons, railguns, torpedoes, every available weapon was unleashed in a synchronized assault. The Zarnax fleet, disoriented by the chaos below, reacted too slowly. Their formation crumbled. And then the bears got involved. On the battlefield, human commandos directed their best-trained grizzly units to hijack a downed Zarnax transport. It shouldn't have worked. It was impossible. But Vasquez had long since stopped questioning the impossible. Somewhere, in the middle of a war zone, a bear wearing military-grade cybernetics was now piloting an alien dropship. Vasquez wiped a tear from his eye. Beautiful. Calloway, watching the feed, whispered, "Sir, that bear just did a strafing run." Gurg let out a strangled noise. "You are a plague upon the stars." The Zarnax lines collapsed. The hive mind tried to retreat, but the werewolves were too fast. The Sasquatches were too strong. The lions, tigers, and crocodiles were too bloodthirsty. And then, in the final stroke of poetic justice, a single Zarnax officer attempted to transmit a distress signal. It was promptly intercepted by a parrot. The bird, part of the UHS Special Forces Chaos Division, had been trained for this exact purpose. It swooped in, landed on the control panel, and screeched into the communicator. "Squawk! Get wrecked, bug boys! Squawk!" The hive mind collapsed. Entirely, the surviving Zarnax forces abandoned their posts. Their warships disengaged, retreating into hyperspace. For the first time in recorded history, the Zarnax Dominion had suffered a total and absolute defeat. By humans, by bears, by Sasquatches, by weaponized werewolves. Vasquez exhaled, leaning back in his chair as the war room erupted in cheers. "Well," he said, taking a final sip of his whiskey, "I think we just made history." Calloway, still staring at the screen, muttered, "I don't think the universe is ever going to recover from this." Ziltoth, gelatinous and trembling, asked, Do all human wars happen this way?" Vasquez smirked. "Buddy, you have no idea." And thus the war against the Zarnax was over. Humanity had not only won, they had ruined their enemy's entire concept of warfare. Across the galaxy, whispers spread of what had happened on Deros 9. The Zarnax, once feared as the greatest military force in the universe, had been defeated not by superior technology, but by the sheer, relentless, batshit insanity of Earth. And as humanity's allies watched in stunned silence, one realization settled deep into their collective minds. If this was what humanity did to the Zarnax, God help anyone who picked a fight with Earth next.